NBA trade deadline madness. We got an NBA analyst, insider, that's going to tell us who are the big winners so far and the moves we could see by the deadline. Got some moves that were just made. We're breaking it all down next on The Big Lead. Episode of The Big Lead, all the biggest stories in sports in less than an hour. My name is Doug McKain, credentialed member of the media. I've covered sports for over a decade. Bleach Report, 24/7 Sports. I do NFL radio for Westwood One. I cover the Dodgers for Dodgers Nation. But today is all about the NBA because you have the trade deadline that has taken over the sports world. The NBA that I grew up loving is back. You got big trades, big names, big stars in big markets. It feels like the NBA has more juice over the last 48 to 72 hours than it's had in the last couple of months combined. And we got a breaking news story, a trade that just broke just a few minutes ago. Jonas Valančiūnas has been traded to the Sacramento Kings for CD Sissoko. So basically the Kings are getting a really good backup center for 2 second-round picks. So I like that move for the Kings. I like that move for DeMar DeRozan. The full DeMar DeRozan reunion tour is complete now with Valančiūnas going to the Kings. And then we got another juicy rumor about Kevin Durant that we're going to get into in a second here. I want to start with the Lake Show because last night the Lakers showed the Clippers who the real team in Los Angeles is. They christened their new arena by absolutely boat racing the Clippers. They absolutely dominated them. A 23-point lead at one point heading into the third quarter, heading into the fourth quarter, 23-point lead. Dalton Knecht, Gabe Vincent, LeBron James was fantastic at 26, 8, and 9. Rui chipped in with 26 and 2. Reeves was balling with 20 points and 6 rebounds. And it clearly was evident to me and the rest of the basketball world that they were treating Luka Doncic like he was that baddie at the park, and they were all elevating their game, playing in front of the new superstar in Los Angeles. Luka looked comfortable. He was wearing that black Lakers zip. He was smiling. He was clapping. He had a triple-double last night. He had 63 claps. He had 24 stands. He had 14 get up and daps. I mean, he was out there loving his new Lakers teammates. And you heard some interesting sound bites during the game about Luka Doncic and if he was going to eventually sign that supermax with the Dallas Mavericks. Here was Luka on the Lakers bench, which is going to take some getting used to, but it looked right. But here was Luka during the game.
Question why the Mavericks decided to move on from Luka. Would it be the fact that he could have earned a supermax contract this upcoming summer? Luka disputed the fact this morning that he would have any second guessing of signing that supermax with Dallas this July. He said he absolutely would have inked that contract. By the way, he is no longer supermax eligible now that he's with a different team. Some of the other conversation, guys, has been about his.
See, like I said, I mean, he's comfortable out there. He was taking in his new team, but clearly he's in shock still. He's still going through the process of joining his new team and being a Los Angeles Laker. But it wasn't Luka Doncic last night that really stood out to me as much as it did with LeBron James. LeBron was fantastic. He continues to just see Father Time and punch him in the face and say, no, back up. We still got this for at least a couple more years. And LeBron looked rejuvenated. He looked re-energized. Even his son, Bronny James, hit his first three-pointer of his NBA career. You think that is a coincidence? He does in front of Luka Doncic? Like I was saying before the show, I think the Bronny chants now are the new We Want Tacos chants. It means the game is at hand. It means the Lakers have that game won, and Bronny James is out there getting his early minutes in as a pro. But the big takeaway wasn't the Lakers destroying the Clippers moving to 10 games above 500, firmly in the 6th spot in the Western Conference, tied with the Denver Nuggets. It was LeBron's comments about his commitment to the Lakers even after they trade away one of his best friends in Anthony Davis.
What's wrong with that? If I had concerns, I would have waived my no trade clause and got up out of here.
And this,
you still feel like you've said earlier this year, right? You still envision yourself finishing your career here. If that's
I mean, listen, we don't. I'm here right now. I'm committed to the Lakers organization. I'm here to help Luka and Maxey make the transition as smooth as possible. Smooth been here before, so he already know we won a championship with him in 2020, so I ain't worried about him. But as the leader of the team, as one of the captains of the team, it's my job to make it as seamless as possible.
So first thing I want to say is that LeBron James's media persona, his media training has to be almost as good as his basketball training. That's some of the best acting I've seen from LeBron since Trainwreck. Acting like he's not happy, acting like he's also supporting Anthony Davis, while deep inside, I think it's pretty clear that he realizes that, hey, for the first time in my career, I am not the best clear-cut, dominant number one on my team. I think LeBron is very, very open to passing the torch, not just to the Lakers, but to the entire league to Luka Doncic. And he sees a path where he can win another championship alongside Bronny James and Luka Doncic. And I think he's okay with that. But it's the way he's playing both sides. Clearly, he's fully committed. I think he's going to be back with this team, even with the player option. We're going to talk to an NBA insider in a few minutes now that's going to tell you that he could take less money to put better pieces around them to put them in a better position to win championships next season. But that was pretty convincing by LeBron. Well, now here's his comments about Anthony Davis and adjusting to life without AD.
It's great. It's everything and more. Literally became brothers over the last 5.5 years. What we was able to accomplish on the floor, obviously that goes without saying, but more importantly, what we was able to accomplish off the floor, just us growing together, knowing each other's families, seeing each other grow, seeing each other's kids grow. It's pretty unique. I was at his wedding when he got married. It was special for sure.
what do you kind of view your role, the best way you can help Luka get assimilated with the Lakers?
Whatever he needs.
Le GOAT of media training, Le PR. I mean, this is a masterclass on how to support AD and Luka and the Lakers brass all in a matter of sentences. So, look, this is a LeBron James that clearly has something left in the tank. He realized that Luka has the potential to take this team to another level, and he already saw what this team looked like when AD was supposed to be thrusted into that number one spot, to be the guy. It just did not work out. At the end of the day, I don't even know why it was a question. I don't know why people out there were wondering if LeBron would want to try to force his way out of LA, try to be with the Warriors or go back to the Cavs or find a different situation. No, LeBron James loves being in LA. He loves playing with Bronny. He's already got his ring, and his window isn't completely shut with Luka Doncic. The addition of Luka Doncic, I think, has the potential to extend his career. The Lakers won without AD in New York. They won last night without AD and Max Christie against the Clippers without Luka. Who is going to want to play this team in the first round? With Luka and LeBron and this roster as currently constructed. I think LeBron James could not be happier to have Luka as a Laker, because this makes them relevant again, and now the Lakers are feared again. I don't think that there's teams out there that are afraid to play the Lakers as currently constructed. Now you got Dorian Finney-Smith. Now you've got Luka Doncic. Now you have Vando back, having a presence defensively. Gabe Vincent finally is earning his paycheck. This roster all of a sudden looks like they're a contributing big away from being the team that no one wants to play in the playoffs. Well, if that doesn't get you excited enough, just take a look at this exclusive footage of Luka Doncic at the Lakers practice facility. And Luka looks right, man. He looks like he's ready to get going. I don't think that the Lakers are putting any pressure on him. I think they're kind of easing him into this whole thing. And I think if you're the Lakers, not only do you get a rejuvenated LeBron, I think you get the very best version of Luka Doncic. Because now you know what Luka Doncic has? He's got more names on his hit list. That hit list already had the Clippers. It already had the Timberwolves and the Jazz and the Celtics and the Thunder. Now it has the Mavs and the dude who took his beer, Michael Finley, and the team that took $116 million away from him. You're going to get the assassin version of Luka Doncic. So I would not be shocked at this point to see the Lakers make a deep run in the playoffs. There's no one that scares you in the Western Conference Finals. There's no juggernauts out there that Luka doesn't wake up and think that, hey, I can drop 38-8 on you and hit a clutch step back and drop some explicitives and F-bombs in your direction. This is the loudest we're going to see Crypto.com, formerly known as the Great Staples Center, since the Kobe era. And it's because of the style of play of Luka Doncic. So, yeah, my big takeaway last night, this team looks ready to run. Like I said, they were treating Luka like he was that baddie at the park, John. And what did you see from the Lakers last night? My man J-Rob rock with us as always.
Oh, man. I could tell that Los Angeles is rejuvenated. It feels like something massive is in the air. And the other part about it, too, Doug, is nobody still saw this coming. Like, it still feels surreal. Like, I still feel like we are living in a dream right now. And Rob Pelinka is going to owe Savannah James an apology because LeBron's probably not retiring until he's 45, because him and Luka Doncic can probably run off at least 3 or 4 of these things in a short amount of time. They get on the right big man, the right run, the right maybe third star. It could be ugly over the next few seasons, because this could be like the Magic Kareem dynamic. This is LeBron's swan song. This is Luka's emergence to the world. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was evident last night was that this team and Rob Pelinka, who pretty much has a lifetime contract at this point. I saw what Brian Windhorst tweet out where he said that pretty much he asked an executive around the league what he thought of Rob Pelinka's jacket, and the NBA executive said he could be wearing a Speedo out there instead of that leather jacket. He'd have a lifetime contract. So I don't think he has anything to worry about. But we're going to be joined next by an NBA insider, Sam Quinn, who's going to really reshape how you think about this deadline, where Jimmy Butler will end up. Thoughts on why even the Lakers, after trading for Luka Doncic, might not be the biggest winners at this year's deadline. Could be another team, another player. Here's my conversation with CBS's Sam Quinn. And here to talk about the electrifying trade deadline. The buzz is palpable in the association. You got moves going down. You got the most shocking trade in NBA history just a few days ago. And here to talk about it is CBS NBA analyst, one of the great NBA ball knowers on the planet, the great Sam Quinn joins us today. Sam, thank you so much for your time, my man.
Man, I am so tired. My phone will not stop buzzing. Like, just give me a break. Give me an hour. Give me a chance to eat lunch. Something. It
keeps coming, man. It's sham season. It's sham season right now, and we really have to start with the trade that went down this morning. Kyle Kuzma heading to the Milwaukee Bucks. Kuz having a down season. The shooting numbers are down. The production hasn't been where it was in years past. But do you like this move for the Milwaukee Bucks?
I mean, I'm kind of in TBD mode. Like, the Bucks this year, there've been a real like air of them being old and slow. They're not rebounding. They're not doing anything in transition. Like, just injecting a little bit of size, athleticism, like open court know-how. I think that's going to be helpful. If he shoots the way he's shooting in Washington, like nothing else matters, right? He's at 28% from 3, I think 49% from 2, not shooting well at the line. He's never been as good a shooter as his reputation has suggested. This was like quietly an issue with the Lakers. He was scoring a lot of points earlier in Washington, but like not efficiently. If he can't make open threes for the Bucks, nothing matters. If he's at like, 35% instead of 28%, now I think you might have something, because the other thing this deal did was that it got them below the second apron, which means now they can aggregate salaries. So I would expect them to be trying to combine, say, Pat Connaughton and Bobby Portis, maybe Marjan Beauchamp, like get someone in that 20, 21, $22 million range as kind of a second piece, because Kuzma in and of himself is like a nice player, but he doesn't really remake your team. He doesn't replace the shot creation you lose with Middleton, even if he has been hurt. I think they're going to make another move. I think their 2031 first is probably on the table. So for now, I'm kind of just in like, let's see mode. Are they going to make another trade? Is Kuzma going to hit his shots? In a month, I think I'll have a better idea of how I feel. But like, I get the logic. The Bucks fans who are like, oh, Kuzma's bad, why would we trade Middleton for him? I think that's an emotional response more than anything, because he won the championship there and he'd been there for a decade. Like, I get it, but for now, I'm kind of in wait and see mode.
Yeah, and if you're the Bucks, I mean, Middleton was huge for them a couple years ago during their championship run, but he's only playing 23 minutes a game. The ankle was not there. At least if, in theory, like you're saying, you get someone like Kuzma, he turns his season around and he hits those open shots. That's what I'm looking for the Bucks. I mean, a career low 28.1% from three, 42% from the field. He's down from 22.2 points per game to 15.2 points per game. How many more open shots do you expect him to get playing alongside Giannis and Dame?
Oh, yeah, he'll get plenty of open threes. That's not an issue, right? Like, the way you have to defend, like, Giannis and Dame, not only are they both, like, individually great shot makers, they warp the court in very different ways. Like, Giannis has all of this insane rim gravity, and Dame has all of this three-point line gravity, and you put them together, and it just stresses defenses in this really unique way that I don't think any other team really has, like an elite, deep three-point shooter and an elite rim threat. That opens up so many easy shots for other guys. Like, we've seen Taurean Prince this year make 1 million threes because he's just always open. I think those shots are going to be pretty available to Kuzma. And I think defenses are going to be happy to give it to him because, like, look, for years and years and years, he had this reputation as like, oh, he's a 20-point scorer. He's a good shooter, great shooter. The numbers have never really borne that out. I think defenses have mostly figured that out now. So he's going to have to prove it. He's going to get the chance. The shots are going to be good. I don't think that's the question. The question is just, is he going to make them?
Yeah, and I'm going to delve back to something you said, because the only thing that is better than an NBA trade is more NBA trades. And you mentioned the Bucks saving money in this deal, getting out of that second apron. You think they could still be active? Who are some players you think they could potentially target to even increase their chances in the East?
All right, this is the guy I want them to get. There's no reporting here. I don't know them to be interested. The guy I want them to get is Lonzo Ball, which is funny, aside from like this being an LA show and them having played together with the Lakers earlier in their career. Like, think about the things that the Bucks need. Number one is perimeter defense. Lonzo is still an awesome defender. Great at generating turnovers, great at generating deflections, can stay in front of his man, positionally versatile, like does a little bit of everything on defense. Number two, they need someone who can make open threes. Lonzo isn't doing that this year, but the last several years he played before his injuries, very good three-point shooter. A little bit more playmaking passing, because now with Middleton gone, it's really just Dame and Giannis. Lonzo isn't much of a like half-court creator because he doesn't do anything inside of the arc. Like, he's taken 32 two-point shots all season. He's not really like a drive and kick kind of guy, but he's a great transition creator, can help you get you out on the break, get you those easy points. I think that would be really valuable for Milwaukee. So that's the guy, if I were them, I'd be trying to get. I don't know if the Bulls want that salary that the Bucks have to offer because it goes into next year. It's not expiring. That's the name I'd be looking for. But like, really, any kind of 3-and-D wing you can get in that $20 million salary range is somebody that I think makes sense. Connaughton is just done. Like, that's just, it is what it is. He got old. Portis is still a useful player, but he's kind of a luxury to a team that already has Brook Lopez and Giannis. I think what the Bucks have really signaled with a lot of the way they've managed this season is that when they get to the higher leverage moments, Giannis is going to be their backup center. It's going to be Brook and it's going to be Giannis. And if that's the case, I don't know what Portis really does for you in a playoff setting. He like has very serious defensive limitations. You can't play drop coverage with him on the floor. I think it probably makes sense for them to combine those two guys. Just get somebody in there that you feel a little bit more confident in a playoff setting. Lonzo's my guy. It could be any number of others, but I don't think they're done. I think they're trying to get somebody else.
Yeah, I don't think any Lakers fans had a Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma reunion in Milwaukee on their bingo card, but just the thought of Lonzo throwing lobs to Jonas, and it's a Bucks team that needs help in transition, need help in rebounding. You're kind of getting better on those ends. I love that idea. From the Wizards' point of view, what happens with Chris Middleton? I mean, he's someone that does have that player option, really not the best type of buyout candidate most likely, but what do you think they do with Middleton, and what do you think about this trade from their perspective?
I think if anybody offered them like even net neutral matching salary and like a second round pick, they'd probably take it. I don't think they have any intention of like keeping Middleton and building around him, but because of that player option, like it's pretty rare. It's not unprecedented, but it's pretty rare that you see teams buy guys out with multiple years left, because that leaves them with dead salary, right? Like if you're the Wizards, I don't know why you want to have a $30 million dead charge on your books for next year. So I would assume a buyout's unlikely unless he left a lot of money on the table. I'm trying to think of a team that might trade for him. It's just such a risk. Who has $30 million in salary right now that's not attached to somebody important that, like, you know, you can take the risk on that? I don't think such a team even really exists. So I guess he's staying in Washington, and like, maybe that's a chance for him to rebuild his value a little bit. Like, just score some buckets, don't play too many minutes. I want to stress that, like, nobody watches the Wizards. So if he's terrible on defense, who's going to notice?
Yeah.
So put up some numbers, and like maybe next year you get a buyout in the middle of the season, and then you get to a contender, try to rebuild your value. But like for now, I kind of think he's just sort of stuck in Neverland. Like I just don't see a way out for him here.
Yeah, and then you switch over to the other blockbuster trade that we've seen so far, Luka Doncic. We got to talk about this. It's been a couple of days so far. Has it sunk in? Has there been any new information that you've heard from anyone that has allowed you to make even more sense of this trade? Because it's still shocking to so many. I mean, you got three guys in the history of this game that have made 5 first-team All-NBAs before 26. Kevin Durant, Tim Duncan, and Luka Doncic. How you could trade a talent like that for Anthony Davis right now without opening things up to a bidding war still is mind-boggling to so many, including myself. But Sam, today, have you made more sense of this trade, or is it still as shocking as ever?
I mean, look, it's a bad trade. We all know it's a bad trade. Like, it is what it is. My pet theory right now is it's a few things. First of all, you look at Dallas being linked to Kevin Durant, who obviously is one of the core Nike guys. Nico Harrison at Nike, Kyrie and Anthony Davis were two players that he had great relationships with. Number one, I do wonder if this is kind of just a relationships thing where Nico was not really connected with Luka, didn't have faith in him long term, and wants to bring in, quote unquote, his guys. The other thing is, I think you trace this back to when they fired Donnie Nelson a few years ago. They kind of turned over management of the team. I do wonder, like, just to be honest about the way NBA front offices work, we sort of have this idea that the person with the GM title is meant to be the be all and end all. And on some teams, that's the case. I don't necessarily know that that was the intent originally in Dallas, because when Mark Cuban hired him, Mark Cuban is so in the weeds on every little basketball detail. And there are other guys in that front office that have a more traditional basketball background, right? Like Harald Bob Voulgaris, who was there in the past, noted on Twitter, like a big part of their successful moves over the last few years was Dennis Lindsey. Dennis Lindsey is like an old school basketball guy. He was a GM of the Jazz. He's with the Pistons now. Something that I've kind of wondered is if Mark Cuban hired Nico Harrison, intending him to be more of like part of a brain trust, somebody who had these relationships, who could recruit, who could be a useful voice in the room, but never intended him to be the person making like solo these decisions. But when Cuban sold the team to the Adelsons, I think Patrick Dumont is the governor, like maybe that just never translated. And as Cuban lost influence, as Lindsey left, as like other people in the organization shifted, maybe Nico Harrison kind of came into more power than he was originally meant to have, because I don't think Mark Cuban ever makes this trade. I don't think anybody assumes Mark Cuban makes this trade. I don't think 29 other NBA GMs make this trade. I think it's kind of a perfect confluence of events and circumstances where this one guy who isn't fond of Luka, but does have relationships with these other guys that maybe you could use Luka to get, who there have been some rumors like maybe he doesn't plan to have that job long term, is more interested in winning right now. I guess with Kyrie and Anthony Davis, you have a chance. I wouldn't have advised the trade. Like, that's sort of how I'm making sense of it. It's a lot of like gobbledygook and a lot of like making your own links without knowing things for sure. But there's not like a good explanation for this, right? There's not a way you can rationalize this on the Dallas side and say, wow, this was a good idea, unless you knew Luka was going to leave. And by all indications, he wasn't planning on it, at least immediately. So that's how I'm putting it together. I can't tell you that I know everything here. It makes very little sense for me. It just kind of seems like a weird move driven by one person or a small number of people who kind of don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and we know that Mark Cuban certainly would not have made that move. He's the same guy that said if he had to choose between his wife and keeping Luke on the Mavs, said, catch me in my lawyer's office preparing for a divorce. So we know that he would not do that. But as far as the Lakers this season, you heard LeBron yesterday saying that he's still all in with the Lakers and he would have waived his no trade clause. He would try to maybe force his way out if he wasn't okay with this move. How do they contend this season? And do you expect them to add another big before the deadline?
They'll add a big. I just don't know if it's going to be like your all-in center of the future type or more of just like a fringy, let's get through the season type. It'll depend on what's available. Like, I think if they could get Walker Kessler, I think they do it. I think if they can get Nick Claxton for a fair price, like let's say Rui Hachimura and then either Dalton Connect or the 2031 first, I think they'd be inclined to do that. That's the big thing, right? Like right now they don't have any size. Jackson Hayes, not a playoff caliber center. Maxi Kleber is more of a 4 at this point. Like, I guess you can play some small ball lineups with him at center. I wouldn't really bank on it. Center is like the single biggest thing they have to figure out. I'd also just say, I know that the fan base and the team are very, very excited about Austin Reeves' future. I am too. I think he's a very good player. He's not as valuable on this current roster as he was before because he's now the number 3 ball handler, and that's kind of his best trait, is creating shots. He'll be very good with Luka and LeBron. Like, he'll take advantage of all the attention that they get. He's been a very bad defender this year. He's been a better defender in the past. If he defends the way that he has defended this year and LeBron and Luka defend the way that they've defended, like, they're not getting stops. I don't care who you put at center. So perimeter defense is going to be another important factor here. We're looking at around, as we're recording right now, 26 hours before the deadline. Can you get a center and a perimeter defender in that time? Maybe. I don't know that it's super likely. I think they would take the right center if they could find one, but it's more likely that they kind of just go, you know what? Let's go forward for this year, use it as an evaluation time, and then we'll like really figure out the roster over the summer when, you know, most of our contracts are expiring, when we maybe have access to our 2032 pick swap. Just more stuff opens up. It becomes a little bit easier to make a move. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be quiet the rest of the way, but don't rule it out. Or they could get Claxton or Kessler. I think they do it.
Yeah, and if you're the Lakers, kind of the question is, hey, is it just about, hey, we secured our future? I mean, we could lose the rest of the games all season long by 50 points, and we still have Luka Doncic as the face of the organization. But then you still have LeBron James, who's performing at this level. He has the player option. I mean, if you're the Lakers, do you try to push all the chips in for the remainder of this season? Or is it, hey, what are the best moves that can build a championship around Luka for the long term?
I mean, look, I think they'd like to win this year, but I think the reality of getting Luka is that you're resetting for a 5-10 year timeline. I think if they could get a younger guy who helps them now, they do it. I don't think they're trading like the 2031 first or Dalton Connect for a guy in his 30s, right? I don't think winning right now is enough of a priority. I think the goal here is going to be mostly like, how do we set it up so that we can be good for a long time? If you go back to, it might have been Media Day this year, or it might have been in a past year, somebody asked Rob Pelinka, what would it take for you to trade the 2029 and 2031 firsts? And the answer he gave, which I thought was really informative now, was sustained Lakers excellence, right? Like, I think they have spent so much of the last few years pushing so many chips to the center for LeBron and AD, and like the Russ trade was part of that, and other moves they made kind of fit into that. I think now they're thinking more in terms of Luka's timeline. That doesn't mean they don't want to win with LeBron, but I also think they kind of acknowledge that you can build for the next 2 years, you can build for the next 10. You kind of prefer to build for the next 10. And then the other thing I think about is LeBron has a player option this offseason. Last summer, LeBron was willing to leave money on the table to help the Lakers get somebody. Right now, they have LeBron at a max salary. I do sort of think a lot of doors open up for you if the summer rolls around and LeBron says, I know I could make 50, but instead I'm going to make 30. Go build the championship team now. I think there are ways in which these two sides can cooperate where, like, maybe they say we'll go all in on this front, but we need you to do this for us on the other end. LeBron and the Lakers have a very strong, co-working relationship, right? Like, they cooperate with one another. They share information for the most part. I think everyone's going to be on the same page. They're not going to go all in for LeBron specifically right now, but I do think these two sides will cooperate so that they'll at least give LeBron one or two more chances down the line to seriously compete. It just might be next year, might be the year after that. I don't think they're rushing.
See, that's interesting. I mean, LeBron's worth over $1 billion. Of course, you drafted Bronny, who, by the way, hit his first 3 yesterday. The Luka effect, the aura of Luka just is already having an impact on all the players. But I think you look at this team as they're currently constructed, that makes all the sense in the world, is because, I mean, the West right now, they're getting better. I want your take on De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs, because that feels like the perfect fit to pair alongside Wemby. He's got a athletic point guard. He's got the point guard for the future. He's from Texas. He made it known to the Kings. He wasn't going to sign that extension there. What do you grade that trade? And just what is your impact? What do you think that impact looks like for San Antonio?
Luka was the bigger trade just as far as the names involved and just how surprising it was and just the fact that the Lakers were in it. If you ask me what trade that happened this week is going to affect the most championships, it would be De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs. I mean, I just think whether it's next year or in 2 years, like, the Wemby era is coming. There's nothing we can do to stop it. He's going to be the best player in the league at some point in the somewhat near future. He now has his sidekick in De'Aaron Fox. You can quibble about some of the fit, right? Like, there are a lot of guys on that team that are iffy shooters. Fox, not a great shooter. Stephon Castle, total non-shooter. Jeremy Sohan, total non-shooter. Like, I do think they have things to figure out. They're not done. But just think about what they still have left to work with, right? Like, they have all 8 of their top 8 most used players this year in terms of minutes. They have most of their own first-round picks. They have all of the Hawks picks. They still have that Kings swap. They have that Timberwolves swap in 2030. They have, like, all of the players that they've drafted in the first round in recent years. Like, I know it looks on paper when you see, oh, they gave up 4 first-round picks. It seems like they gave up a lot. They really didn't. Those picks outside of the Minnesota pick that they gave up, I don't think of as super valuable. So, like, they could do almost anything from this point, right? If they wanted to trade for a 3rd star, they could pretty easily do it. If they decided we want to do what Boston did and just be opportunistic and be like, let's grab a Derek White here and a Kristaps Porzingis there and, like, just get good players when they become available, they can do that. If they want to slow play this and draft and develop and, like, just take it easy, they can do that. Anything is on the table for them. They still have cap flexibility this offseason. I think De'Aaron Fox, just by virtue of playing with Wemby, is probably likelier to win a championship and even multiple championships with his new team than Luka is with his. So, like, I know Luka is the talk of the week. I think the deal that's going to end up meaning the most at the highest levels is probably going to be Fox to the Spurs.
You make the Spurs seem absolutely scary for the next decade. And you kept the picks, you got the cap space, you kept Stephon Castle. I mean, Wembanyama has been everything that you could ever hope for and then some. I'm looking forward to those Lakers-Spurs Western Conference Finals like we saw back in the day. It's going to be pure cinema, Luka versus Wemby. You know it's going to happen. Couple quick hitters. What do you think happens with Jimmy Butler? Does he end up in Phoenix? Has he burned too many bridges? Will they look to get a deal finalized before the deadline? Or do you think there's a chance that he does remain in Miami?
I think he's going to get traded. It's a matter of how it goes. If it's going to be Phoenix, it's not going to be with Beal. That ship has sailed. Bradley Beal's not getting traded.
Yeah.
Would it be a situation where Durant goes to Golden State or Durant goes somewhere else and they slide Butler into that salary slot? maybe like, look, a deal of that magnitude, my inclination is always, it's so hard to do that during the season that I'm always going to guess that it's not going to happen. But there's been a lot of buzz in that direction. And I sort of think like at a certain point when there's so much smoke, there kind of has to be fire. You don't let it get out that you're thinking about trading Durant if you're not really prepared to pull the trigger on that. So like maybe, but if it's not going to be Phoenix, I think we're going to get to tomorrow. And if Phoenix is off the table, Jimmy will go to the Heat and say something to the effect of like, okay, I'm more willing to consider Memphis now, or I'm more willing to consider Golden State, or I'm more willing to consider whoever. Like, I think these two sides just more than anything want to get a divorce. I think Phoenix is Jimmy's preference, but like, if we really get to the end and there's no Phoenix trade, I think he's going to fold and go somewhere else.
Wow. Now, how about KD? I mean, there's been some talk about KD. Do you actually think that he could potentially be traded?
It's just, again, when you hear this much and it gets this public, you sort of think it's probably a little bit further along than just like exploratory conversations. And I think back to over the summer when there were all those rumors around Durant and the Rockets, and Matt Ishbia basically came out and said like, oh, Kevin Durant loves Phoenix and Phoenix loves Kevin Durant. Like, we're happy together, blah, blah, blah. And then in November, I think it might have been to Windhorst. I can't remember who he said it to. In November, he said outright, like, yeah, we're not trading Kevin Durant. I find it a little suspicious that we have not heard from Matt Ishbia yet, because this has now been out there for like 2 days. And I'm thinking, like, if you really had decided you're not trading him, we'd probably know by now. I'm going to put the odds below 50% just because it's so hard to make a deal of that size during the season, right? Like, you need 4 or 5 teams. You need unbalanced, like, do teams have the roster spots to absorb guys? Are they willing to waive people? Like, they're just all of these considerations and the aprons. Like, I'm going to say below 50% chance, but like, there's a real shot here.
And after what we've seen the last couple of days, anything can happen at this point. Nothing could shock us more than Luka to the Lakers. But still, hey, I'll tell you someone who's not going to get traded. That is Sam Quinn. CBS will never trade you. You're untradeable. And we thank you for joining us here on The Big Lead. We know you're a busy guy. Any second, any minute now, someone could pop off. So we'll let you get back to work. But thank you so much for the time, my man, Sam.
I don't know, man. Anybody can get traded, even me. We'll see. I might be playing for the Wizards tomorrow.
Good day. Well, no one watches. I mean, like you said, but that is Sam Quinn. Thank you so much. Go follow him, Sam Quinn, CBS over on the X, and stay locked in. It's an electric NBA trade deadline. That's my guy, Sam Quinn. Go follow him at Sam Quinn CBS. Breaking down all the latest NBA news. We'll have him back very, very soon. But really the big story today, as far as the biggest name that could be dealt, is Kevin Durant. Will KD be traded by the Suns by the deadline? Well, things aren't looking good for the Warriors. There was talk that the Warriors were trying to bring KD back to the Bay, reunite him with Steph Curry, but it was also reported that KD did not want that. KD did not want that trade, and really it comes down to, can you find a suitor for him? And Jimmy Butler still wants to go to Phoenix because that's the team that wants to extend him potentially. The Warriors apparently had no interest in bringing in Jimmy Butler if he was only going to be there as a rental, because he has the player option, and Jimmy Butler made it pretty much well known that he did not want to sign an extension with the Golden State Warriors. So it's possible. ESPN's Brian Windhorst said Wednesday that if KD does in fact get traded by tomorrow afternoon, that the current most likely destination is Miami. So Miami is a franchise that, similar kind of to the Lakers, they find ways to get players they want through different avenues. They find ways to get the superstars in South Beach as a free agent destination, 305. If somehow, some way, the Heat end up with Kevin Durant, that would be a massive win for the Miami Heat. And look, I think KD does not want to basically start anew with a new franchise, especially if it's going back to the Warriors. I don't think he wants anything to do with that. But Miami is a franchise I think makes a ton of sense for KD. Would you want to see KD in Miami, J-Rob?
I don't want to see Kevin Durant anywhere but the Phoenix Suns. That's where he was traded to. This is getting embarrassing with how we're moving around Kevin Durant like it's Kevin Durant, and I just don't understand why are the Suns shopping KD? First of all, you guys made an idiotic decision to take on the only other player in the NBA with a no trade clause is Bradley Beal. You know who's the other player who has a no trade clause? LeBron James. That should tell you the caliber of player you should have to be to even garner a no trade clause. Why? And then the Warriors, it's embarrassing what the Warriors are trying to do. To put out a statement that we're willing to take any all-star to come here and pair up with Steph Curry. I mean, this is how high the mighty have fallen. It's embarrassing. And I don't want to see Kevin Durant anywhere else but in a Phoenix Suns uniform. If I had to be, somewhere I think he could go that would be good for basketball, good for the NBA, go to the Knicks.
That's always there. I think the Knicks are kind of get their squad intact. But I just say, look, I mean, for the Heat feel like they're that one team that could somehow find a way to profit. It feels like that meme of Scarface where they're laughing, printing the money. That's something I could see Pat Riley doing if he were to be able to do that. As far as your take on KD and the Suns, I think it kind of is more of a reflection of the Suns just coming to grips with the fact that this is not how you build a championship in 2025 with superstars that aren't in their primes. The names look great. You fall in love with the back of the jersey. You fall in love with Bradley Beal and what he was. You mentioned he did get that NTC, that no trade clause, and he's someone who does not want to uproot his family, wants to stay in Phoenix. Devin Booker, guys like Chris Paul in the past, they feel like they're star chasing and that's going to lead to a championship. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. I do think that you look at Kevin Durant at this point of his career, the guy he literally is basketball's version of fine wine. I mean, he is just getting better with the age. It feels like it's just not regressing like you would think he would have. But I just think that if he doesn't want to go to Golden State, that means that he has a very, very small number, a short list of teams that he'd be willing to be traded to. And how would he say no to Miami? I mean, it's the Eastern Conference. You play there with the Nets. But I do think it does feel like on his end that he does feel kind of the way you're feeling. It's that, hey, look, man, I'm that dude. As long as you have me, you still have a chance. And if you're Phoenix, clearly they don't feel that way. So that indicates that they would want to trade. They want to get out from underneath them and potentially go in a different direction. But we're going to see more fireworks, guys. We're going to be back with you tomorrow. Trade special. We're going to be on early. We're going to be on live. Anything that breaks, we're going to be breaking it down here on the Big Lead. Special thanks to our guy, Sam Quinn. Go follow him on Sam Quinn CBS. J-Rob's always rocking with us, and we'll be rocking with you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we see some more fireworks. At this point, I just want to be entertained. I want to see teams change. I like when the jersey swaps become press conference gear, becomes first shot of them on the bench, becomes first game. There, it was just made official. Luka Doncic will be making his Lakers debut against the Pacers this weekend. That is going to be absolutely electric. So that is definitely something to look for. But will we see other new faces and new players on different teams? I think there's a pretty good chance. But that's it for this episode of The Big Lead. My name is Doug McKain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. And until next time, I'm out.